Well, what's up, folks? It is Friday Eve, Thursday night for those who like to keep track of the days of the week, and it is December 8th already. So we're 17 days away from Christmas for the kids who are counting down the days, which I'm pretty sure they're excited to see Santa Claus, the family. And this time of the year, although it is 82 degrees down here in Tampa, Florida, I'm pretty sure where everyone else is, it feels like Christmas. Here, we call it like a summer Christmas because it's kind of weird to see reindeers and Santa Claus and everything else across the lawns because it's warm. But nevertheless, we are live from the LG Direct Sales Solutions Studios in Tampa, Florida. And yes, it's been a little bit since the last time we were on, but because there have been so many things going on, we try to make sure that we have everyone engaged, you, the listener, and everyone who listens from overseas, stateside, and around the world. We do appreciate it. And also for those who are listening tonight on 102.9 The Game, as we have launched our radio station as well. So we can't wait for you guys to also give us some feedback and let us know exactly how everything sounds, how everything looks, because we are simulcasting both live on BroadStreetSouth.com and on 102.9 The Game. So with that being said, tonight, team market owner of the Kentucky Enforcers, Dustin Driskell, is here with me tonight as we get closer and closer to the 2023 TBL season. And if you have not gotten your season tickets yet for the Kentucky Enforcers or for the teams in your area, I would say that you may want to jump on it because this year proves and is going to prove with the 50 teams to have some excitement. So as we get into it, we'll talk to coach, team market owner, executor, you name it. He is all wrapped up in one, but it's okay because that's what happens when you are a team market owner. You just get involved with everything. So with that being said, we like to get the show here started. It is episode 171. And once again, we thank everyone from Australia to China to Italy, stateside, Puerto Rico, Brazil, everywhere around the world. We thank you for listening. I'm Angel, and this is Broad Street South. And just as I said, tonight we have team market owner from the Kentucky Enforcers. Dustin Driskell is here with me this evening. Dustin, first of all, thank you for joining the show. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, Angel, thanks for having me on.
No problem whatsoever. And listen, we know that last year, obviously 2022, a lot of teams, we talked about a little bit off air before we came on air here, but we talked about how different teams went through their highs, went through their lows. We know towards the end of the season, some teams that need to fight to get in, they were able to get in there. And then, of course, playoff time came around. And some teams that should have run the distance came up a little bit short. And we know that you guys end up finishing up fourth in a tough division because the division you guys are in, it's not the easiest one. Might be one of the smaller of the groups, but it is a tough division. You guys have Owensboro, which I did talk to Coach Anderson earlier in the year about his team as well. So as far as the Kentucky Enforcers, you guys this year, you're awaiting, like some other teams, for your schedule to come out. But before we get into as far as the teams and the scheduling, to get a little bit of your background so we can kind of get into that transition mode as far as for the scheduling, but tell us a little bit about you as far as the listeners who've never heard from the Kentucky Enforcers, especially from you, Coach, from team market owner to where you guys are now, because I know from, if I remember correctly, you guys started back on May 2016, if I'm correct.
Yeah, that's correct, actually. I got a call from a former coach of mine that coached me when I played professionally in the EBA, and he was actually affiliated with the ABA in 2016, and called me and said they wanted to put a new team in the Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati area, and it kind of took off from there. It was just a great opportunity, and I was kind of tossing it back and forth if I wanted to do it or not. And then I realized, hey, there's too much talent in Northern Kentucky and Cincinnati to not go ahead and form a team. So we did. In 2016 we started the Kentucky Enforcers, and I went around to numerous summer league pro-ams in the tri-state area here and recruited guys. And we played 2 years in the ABA, then we played in the NABL a couple years, and now here we are in the TBL.
Now, usually when I normally ask a question of the different team market owners that have been on with me and the coaches as well, but what separates you guys, let's say, because again, the division you're in with like Owensboro, for anyone who tried out either for the thoroughbreds, obviously you guys being pretty much in the same area, being from Tennessee and Kentucky, But what's the difference between someone playing for, let's just say, for your competitor versus playing for you guys?
We're more of a family. We we have, I don't know, the easiest way to put it is, with myself, my personal family, we treat guys like their family. We have cookouts. We go out to dinner together with our guys. We go have fun. Last year we went to Top Golf for Kevin and Cam Mitchell, two of my players. They're twins. We all went to Top Golf for their birthdays. We just we like to know our guys.
Right.
Basketball court and in practice, it's strictly business, and our guys know that. But after the game, off the court, road trips, we have fun. We have a lot of fun together. And a lot of my players, that's why they come back. I've had Jeff Robinson with me since 2016. Cam Mitchell's been with me since 2018. Terrence Briggs, 2018. I had a former player, Robbie Smythe, that came with Jeff Robinson when I first started it. He would still be here today, but unfortunately, he passed away early last summer. So, we're a family. We're not just a team.
No. Listen, that's good because that's the one thing you don't hear a lot of anymore, at least today, because we've seen like professional teams, whether it be in the NFL, the NBA, we know a lot of these guys that when it's the off season, a lot of them, like I want to say the first 2 weeks, they may take the time off, spend it with their families because obviously it's a grueling season. I would say the same way too with the TBL because from March until May, it seems like it's short and condensed. But by the time you put all the planning together, it's the draft, there's the combine, season starts, time to when the season ends. I mean, Easter's probably the only weekend really where everybody's off. But besides that, you guys are extremely busy just between workouts, practice, and everything else. So it's good to hear that you guys take that time to be able to bond with one another because that's vitally important, first and foremost, that you do bond with your team because if you don't have that cohesion with everyone else, it makes it a little bit tough because you don't get to know your guys. You don't get to see, what they do off the court versus what you guys do in the community and what you do on the court. So that's always good to hear because it is grueling. I mean, going on the road is not the easiest thing. It's completely different from the NBA level where you guys are, either smaller buses, smaller vans. You're traveling, from within state or out of state. So it's a completely different setup for a lot of people who don't know about it. And if you guys have never followed the basketball league, I will tell you that being a broadcaster, formerly of the Tampa Bay Titans, they're taking some time off. But being a broadcaster with them, I can see when all these guys, if they all meet up at whether being at someone's house or if they meet up at the school, all jump on the bus, they're able to travel. I mean, you're talking about some guys that have a full-time job, come in the afternoon, get on that bus, get ready to hit the road, come back. I mean, it's a Monday through Friday job, plus the Monday through Friday workouts you guys end up having. So it's a lot. It's a lot to put together. I will, for you being a team market owner and a coach, it's a lot to ask of you, and I'm pretty sure that the fans appreciate it. I'm quite sure your family appreciates it, but between that, how much downtime then you actually have from the end, let's just say the end of May, and if you make it to the playoffs, you're talking about early August, but from that time until it starts to roll around again, start putting schedules together, start looking at the draft, start looking at prospects. You guys go out there because there are different dates. Everybody goes out to try out. How much personal time are you able to make for yourself before it starts all over again?
Oh man, if I'm lucky, maybe 2 weeks. We get about a 2 week break to where I don't want to see those guys' faces, or they still send me text messages or call me, but I tell them there's like 2 weeks where I don't want to see your face. I don't want to be in the gym. I don't want your basketball house. But then we jump right back into. We play some money tournaments. We host a summer money tournament. We try to get in with the youth sports and athletics around here, and it's just right back to it. There's competitive rec leagues or pro-am leagues that these guys are playing in that I go check out a lot. So it's never ending. You're right, it doesn't stop. So,
no, it doesn't.
But I love it.
I see it obviously I keep up with it with the TBL as I see it on social media. I try and keep up with as many teams as I possibly can as well because I see you guys are always involved in the community. I can see again how some teams, even just from your social media, you could tell how some end up bonding together and some other ones that are just going to work. I'm not going to say anything negative about the teams because it's always work in progress. So it's not like someone I didn't come across a team, put it this way, that I ever saw in Tampa last season that came in with, that we got too much game attitude, or, we're just the best. No one's going to beat us. When people come, they're focused, they're ready to play. And at the end of the game, the first thing you see is you guys shaking hands. And then even after you're in the locker room, you end up coming back out. I would say at least 90% of the times, the away team either waits for the home team just to talk a little bit more, because you guys are going to see each other again, throughout the season. But it's good to see that, because I think you see it more on the TBL level than you do on a professional level. And the NBA, those guys get paid, tons of money. They can hang around with each other. I know they build a bond afterwards. But I think that's what I appreciate more too about the basketball league, because not only do the players hang around, a lot of the fans hang around too, because they want to get that opportunity, that moment, whether it's speaking to you as a team market owner or one of your players. So that's, I think, to me, that's more family oriented than the NBA. And again, it's two different comparisons, because I know it's a smaller scale, but feels much bigger than what it is. And then now you figure next season, you're talking about almost 60 to 65 teams that'll be joining the TBL. So, I mean, right now we're at 50. There could be a possibility of another 10 to 15 coming up next season. But with all that grueling schedule and everything you got to process and put together, as you come up now, we're coming up in the month of January. Of course, we're now in December, and you start looking towards the draft. You know what you're missing and the key elements in there. Prior to the draft, how many tryouts are you able to at least attend to see what you could possibly have in the draft combine?
So for us, we actually have our third and last set of tryouts, December 17th and 18th. So we usually try to do three different weekends of tryouts for the season. So I want to get my tryouts done by mid-December. That way, I know what I have, I know what I'm missing, or it gives me opportunity to reach out to free agents. Gives me opportunity to focus on some of the TBL, the league combines, to see if there's any within 4 or 5 hours of me. I'll go attend. Last year I went to the Cleveland one, and then obviously the main one in Indianapolis. This year, I didn't travel to a TBL combine just because I did have some really good turnouts the first two sets of tryouts we had this year. I mean, I had 26 new guys come our first tryouts, and then I had 24 this last one that were new guys mixed with, I only had like 5 returners that I'm bringing back. So, those are my core, like 5 guys from last year. So, and that was the difference for us last year. Our core top 5, 6 guys were really good.
Right.
But when I had this, it was it was a decent gap between our bench and our starters as far as just, being able to mix bench guys together. It wasn't as cohesive as, taking 2 or 3 starters and mixing 1 or 2 bench guys. That still worked, but it didn't last throughout the season. That's where we took some lumps. So this year, we went after some bigger free agents, some guys that have TBO experience. We're going to be a lot bigger size-wise than we were last year, and I honestly think we're going to be a lot faster than we were last year. So that's what I'll be looking forward to, the combine, the draft come February. A little bit of size, but some length and a lot of speed.
Well, listen. So my thing, I guess, without revealing too much information. So during a draft, obviously, if there's a player that let's use. I know the Lansing Pharaohs this year they're taking some time off because they're going to end up regrouping. But let's just say Lansing had maybe a center that you guys could possibly part ways. I'm not saying that you would, but you could possibly part ways, or you have a backup center that that's like, okay, I still have the need for this, and they may have that key element. Do you guys pull the trigger on the first person that may come across that maybe there's a need that they want and they want that you need? Or do you wait and see as the draft continues to figure out, okay, what maybe someone else like the Kokomo Bobcats, they might have something that we actually need?
That's a very interesting question. That was kind of the proposal similar to that to me last year at the draft for one of my guys, and for me, it's I'm a player at heart. I played so many years back in the day. 4 years in the EBA, playing professionally, made a little money, and I tend to side with the players on certain things. So for me, I call that player that they're asking about, and I talk with that player over the phone or in person. Hey, this might be an option. How do you feel about it? And if they're okay with that, then we talk further about the possibility of trade or what we need to do there. I think as far as the draft, you know, last year, being in the team, did the Wheel of Fortune spin, and I wasn't very fortunate. My first round, I think I had like the 31st pick, end up trading it up for trading my first and second round to move about 5 spots up to pick a guard that I was familiar with, that I had already known from the past. But I'm definitely open this year. There's probably 7 guys that I have right now that I will never part with.
Right.
Maybe they offer me $1 million, I'll let them go for the season. But yeah, some of them guys are near and dear to your heart. Even though this is a business, to get sponsors, to get investors, you got to put the best product you can on the floor. You got to put on a show for the fans. You got to put, people in the stands. So that's the ultimate goal. Whether it's a near and dear player to your heart, that person might not be getting the job done that you need done to, sustain and build your team. So there's always those things you run into as an owner, not necessarily as a coach.
Right. No, but now you bring up a great point as far as saying having the key players, having the right people, because obviously when it comes now time for you to get those sponsors, it's tough because you're absolutely right as far as hitting on the head that when it comes to your players, because that's what people want to see. Anytime you're looking for a sponsor, that's what they're looking for. What can you bring to the table for me as much as you try to bring to them? And I think for some teams and for every level of every professional team, I think that's the hardest part, especially when you're starting off in a TBL, because you're looking not only to make a name for yourself and for your team and to hopefully have many years, as you have been fortunate to be able to do, to have those multiple years that you can go maybe someone to, whether it's Pampers, whether it's wet wipes, whatever the case may be, because everybody's open, FedEx, UPS. When you go to them and because most of the time they're always going to ask you, okay, either stats, what kind of ticket sales you have, what's your team look like? They look at your background, obviously social media being a big part in it, because obviously, as many people don't think about it, even some of the music that you choose, that it could be with just something simple on social media, that can make or break a lot of times when it comes to a sponsor, because that might be something they just don't like. They may not judge you for it, but they may not like exactly what you're putting together here. But you're like you were saying, you have a couple guys that you have on your team that it's hard to part with. But is it harder to part with, let's say, if it's to another team within the division, or if you get that call, let's just say from Panama or Brazil or somewhere else, that they want that one key center that you have, and it's obviously an opportunity for that player to be able to go overseas? Or is it something you guys try to talk about to see what makes the most sense, whether he wants to stay right there in Kentucky?
Yeah, that's a great question you brought up. So, I always use Jeff Robinson. He's my big guy center. He's 6'11", played at Xavier University. And every year I get calls for him. It started when we played in the ABA. I get teams call. We played in the NABL, and there was a team from Brazil that called. And they were probably, I think, like the Silver League over in Brazil, like the second-tier league. And they were offering him like $5,000 a month to come play. And that's a call that I make to him personally and say, this is who reached out. This is what they're offering. What do you think? Fortunately for me, Jeff is a family man. He has a 10-year-old son. He just loves to play at the highest level competitively, and he's got a really good job. So he never wants to go overseas. That's not in his plan. Once he had a son, that plan faded, and he just loves playing at the highest level, playing in TBL with us, and that's why he's been with me since 2016. So I'm fortunate enough for that, and he's a great guy. He's a great community guy when we get out and do events. The kids love him. He's one of the staples for our team, that's for sure.
See, that's great to hear too, because I know again, referencing other leagues, but we see guys who've been team players. You take, for example, Tom Brady, obviously with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he started his career with New England. he may end up in Miami. Who knows? Because there's a lot of rumors talked about down here in the Florida area, where as far as where he wants to go. But at the same time, too, he's been a great ambassador for the game. And no matter what goes on in his personal life, either way, people love what he does on the field. Whatever goes on in his personal life, he's always kept separate. That's the one thing I will say, I guess, for Tom Brady's behalf, is that he's able to keep that life separately. But what he does in the community, what the involvement he's done for many years, even though as an Eagles fan, we didn't appreciate when he beat us the first time around, but we were able to beat him a second time around. But, regardless of that, it's always because of the evolving in the community, which is a great point that you had just brought up as well, because, that's the one thing, again, with the basketball league, I've seen many teams involved, whether it being because of schools, child may have gotten bullied, and so they bring one of their players up just to talk to that child and maybe just say, how do you know? Because anytime as a child, if someone that you love and you appreciate, they're playing professional basketball, baseball, whatever it is, and you can bring them to the school, and other kids, at least I hope till today, they still wonder, like, how does he know him? Where did he come from? So for you guys, being in Kentucky, how important is the community involvement to you and your players?
I mean, it's big, when COVID hit, it kind of put a chokehold on us, so to speak. It slowed everything down, stopped everything. So once COVID let up and gyms started opening up and we got going again, the guys actually, a lot of my players out to me. Hey, we need to get out in the community. What can we do? Hey, is there anything coming up? Like, let's reach out to the Welcome House, which is, Welcome House in Northern Kentucky. It helps homeless people. It helps unfortunate people that, need to get in and out of the cold, the rain, need something to eat, need some clothes. So, we did some volunteering down there. We did Thanksgiving dinner, served Thanksgiving dinner to the homeless down there one year. And that was because of my guys. We're like, hey, we want to do something, like, we want to let everybody know we're still here, that COVID didn't shut us down for good, like we're back. And so that's very important to have guys like that. I know Kokomo does a lot of good stuff. Lebanon does some stuff. Even the Cincinnati Warriors, it's a new team as well. I know them pretty well. They've been getting out in the community and doing a lot of stuff too. And that's the great thing about the TBL is almost every team gets out and does some stuff, And there's times where we do small stuff, but we don't publicize it. We don't put it on social media just because it's not what it was. That event wasn't for that.
Right.
Or we can't, certain things, we're not allowed to take pictures. We're not allowed to talk about it, when it's people, especially dealing with the homeless people and children's homes, you can't go in and take photos. You can't do that. But that's not what it's about for us. It's about connecting with the youth or those homeless people. I mean, I had Cam Mitchell, everybody knows Cam Mitchell, leading scorer of the TBL last year, the whole season. He played in the CPAC and leading scorer of that league just now, came home, and now he's in the Dominican Republic until the end of December. But, he sat down and had like a 45-minute conversation with this 70-something-year-old Army vet that was homeless for about 45 minutes. And he had the biggest smile on his face when we left. And he said, man, that dude was cool. Like, he was just a cool guy. Like, I enjoyed that talk. So it's things like that you see, that you're not just helping those people out. You're not just, giving them a reward or serving them for a little bit, but it's also giving your players a reward or helping your players out.
And that's important, especially when you're talking about helping out, folks who are homeless, because everybody goes through every different part of life. All of us aren't born with a silver spoon. I'm going to say at least a good 99.9% of people that I know weren't born with silver spoons. And so everybody goes through something in their lifetime. We hear it. You go through trials and tribulations before you finally get to where you want to be. And even then, you might have an accomplished goal that you want, but you always set out another goal, because you never want to become complacent. Once you become complacent, at least to me, the way I see it is that then it's almost like, okay, why am I doing this? I should be doing something more than just being complacent. So for teams that are out there and they get involved, I think, it speaks volumes, especially when the community is looking at it, because again, that's also part of your ticket sales as well. The good thing that I always hear from the league is that no one ever goes out, and whether they're painting, the inside of a school building, whether they're picking up something from the lawns from the outside, just because, it might have been a lot that's just been vacated and everybody's just throwing tons of trash on there. Nobody does it to say, hey, if I clean, if I come paint your school, you'll come buy my tickets, right? No, it's because you guys want to get that involvement. So hopefully they do come to the Kentucky Enforcers game and they say, hey, this is well worth it because you guys helped us out. We want to come check out what you guys are end up doing.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, it's not, that expected trade-off. It's just showing, for us, it's, getting out in the community, showing the community, hey, we're good people. We're good guys. We're not just basketball players. We're not just a basketball team. We are real people that have hearts and feelings, and we care, and we want to help. We want to help whatever we can.
Well, because I always tell, the way I tell it to Evelyn and David Magley, obviously the president CEO of the corporation here, but the big thing I tell them, it's always more than basketball. I think the basketball league, and I think everybody sees it with the posts they put up there. We see different guys that they go overseas. A lot of the ladies who have become either owners, they're either coaches. I know Charlotte has their coach / administrator who played basketball herself, played sports, and now she's able to help the Charlotte Purple Jackets get to that next level as well, along with the 4 former NBA players are also vested in the team as well. So, it's good all the way around to see what the teams do and how they're able to put a good team together, because you being a team market owner, which you can't do everything as much as we all think we can all do everything at once, but assembling your team, and now your 6th year being into the league here, when you look at it, if let's just say you have someone right now that's on your team and they might have an opportunity, whether being overseas, they might go out to Arizona or somewhere else because it may have been something that they've been longing for the longest. And now you have to separate you from that person, that administrator. What do you look for when someone comes to join the Kentucky Enforcers, not on the playing level, but up on the admin level?
Just somebody who's kind of like-minded. You want somebody that has the passion that you do. Maybe not on the same spectrum, but somebody that's passionate about what you're bringing them in for. They've got to be, like a community relation type person where, they're going to engage with the community, whether it be reaching out to people for sponsors or just calling schools or talking to schools or different organizations. But just somebody that has some passion and that wants to build something and succeed with you. That's the biggest thing. I hired a couple people last year to do some sponsorship sales for me. They had never done sales a day in their life, but they were great people person. They talked a lot. They engaged with people. They never met a stranger in their life. So that's, and they didn't know anything about basketball, but they wanted to help.
Right.
They saw what I was doing. They wanted to be a part of it, and they wanted to help build it. So why not? And they helped a lot last year. They really did. I don't know if I'd be sitting here right now, back in TBO if they weren't there to help. So you got to find people like that in your corner. You got to have them.
You do. You're absolutely right, because the one thing I've seen, we all know how, as far as the education system works, for those who are able to go to college and exceed, whether it be an associate's or bachelor's or master's or doctorate, no matter what it is, a lot of people, of course, when they go to advance their studies, they hope to land with the dream job that they want to. But you've also had a lot of people who they could have been, for whatever odd reason, they could have been a high school dropout because maybe mom and dad weren't there, or whatever road end up taking, or they're just a high school graduate. The point that I like to make here is that you end up taking that time, whether they are or aren't college educated, you give someone the opportunity and that choice, which we know that with the basketball league, that's what it's all about. It's about opportunities. So I applaud you for taking, someone in that they may not have that home craft or anything else, but they're able to bring that energy that you need to be able to bring that across. So, kudos to you, Coach, because that speaks volumes. At least in my book, it speaks volumes because you're giving that person that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I'll always give people opportunities. And the same with my players. When I have tryouts, when we post our tryout flyers online, I get probably a dozen guys that'll be like, well, I didn't play college or I didn't play high school, but I've been playing in this Pro-Am league. And they'll send film of their Pro-Am league. And I tell them, look, I don't care where you played or where you didn't play. I don't care what your name is, who you are, but, if you want to come to tryouts, I'll give you a fair shot like I'll give anybody else. And if you can play, you can play. It doesn't matter where you played at. It
Yeah.
matters. Some people it does matter, but to me it doesn't. I'm not a former NBA guy. I'm not a former NCAA Division I champ or anything like that, but I still made it. And I'm making it every day with enforcers. So
No, yeah, and you're absolutely right because you can take the experience that you had. I mean, listen, we've seen a lot of guys who the goal was to play professional football or basketball or baseball or something else. Something happened, they weren't able to accomplish that goal, but it spun them off to a different career that still could have been sports related, but in a different environment, and then eventually come back around full circle and was able to get themselves into an environment like that. You take someone who was Derek Jeter, obviously, who played years for the Yankees and then tried to obviously be the owner down there with the Marlins. Didn't work out the way he wanted to, but he gave it his best, and now he's no longer there. It doesn't mean that he goes away. Lord knows he could be in a broadcast booth or something else, or he might end up, doing his own thing for the smaller market team. So it's good to see, regardless of. I think if you didn't make it professionally somewhere, I think where a lot of people end up giving up is they give up on their dream and then they can't pursue another passion. It's almost like that dream died and a part of them died with them. So it's good to hear that, where you came from in your success story, that you're able to put the Kentucky Enforcers at least on the map, whether it be in Kentucky or around the world, as a lot of people from overseas, they get to see what goes on with the basketball league because they are in 145 different countries. So if you're in Brazil, if you're in China, no matter where it is, as long as you have the TVL TV package, I mean, they can see the Kentucky Enforcers. They can see Owensboro. They can see now this year coming up the Buccaneers. So it's great and refreshing to hear with you. Have you been able to succeed? Keep this team around for 6 years because, again, some teams, for whatever the reasons are, may not make it after year one, or they take a break to come back in year three because financially everything's got to work out for them. Somehow or another, you've been able to make that work, which is always, it's good for you because, again, in the division that you're in, it's not the easiest. You got, again, Kokomo, you got Lebanon, you got Owensboro. So you have fierce competitors within your league. So it's good to see you guys are able to come back, and hopefully, again, when the season comes around, you end up doing a lot better, which I'm pretty sure everybody's going to be aiming, as they should, for the number one spot and then going deep in the playoffs. But to kind of go back a little bit, as far as your own career, what made you choose your path starting from, let's say going back from high school? What chose your path to get to where you are today?
That's kind of a story in itself. So I'm from northern Kentucky, 10, 15 minutes away from Cincinnati, Ohio. I went to a school called Boone County High School. And, like every kid growing up, I wanted to play professional basketball. Most kids, it's football, basketball, baseball. So, basketball was it for me. That was the only tunnel vision I had was basketball. And, growing up through the ranks in high school, I was a pretty good high school player. And I, I had some good looks and offers my junior year of high school. And then, senior year comes around and I get into an argument with the coach and I quit. Worst, but kind of best mistake I've ever made in my life. So I lost every look, offer, anything. And just started playing in some rec league at a place called Sports of All Sorts in Florence, which is actually our training and practice facility now. It's my biggest sponsor, which is kind of ironic. But I was playing in a men's league there, and I'm summer right after my senior year of high school, and I play against this guy that I think's maybe 25. Well, he comes up after a game and says that he just became the head basketball coach at a school called Johnson University in Knoxville, Tennessee, and he offered me a full scholarship on the spot.
Oh,
So,
wow.
I'm probably one of the only people I've ever met in my life that got a full athletic scholarship without even playing basketball my senior year in high school. So I went to school there and played, and did some good things there. I was freshman of the year. I was first team All America and in the NCCAA Division I, and we had a good year that year. We were national runner up in the championship, and played a couple years there. And then I got an offer to go play in the EBA. I don't know if you remember that, the Eastern Basketball Alliance. It was
Yeah.
based out of Philadelphia. So I got an opportunity to go try out, which I thought was a tryout for an expansion team called the Schuylkill Fire Dogs, which was owned by the owner of the league, who also owned the Harrisburg Horizon. really it was they flew me up, and it was the first game of the regular season, so it was like a play-in tryout, which was made me very nervous and scared. But I got an offer, and I made the team, and as a 21 year old kid, I was making $1,000 a week to play ball, and they were flying me everywhere every weekend because they didn't have housing. So, I was living the dream at 21, 22, and 23 years old. So I played in the EBA for like 4 years, and you know, so that's one of my coaches. The time I was my third year in the EBA is the one that was affiliated with the ABA, who actually got me to start the Enforcers. So you just fast forward. I was playing in money tournaments. I used to play in a Hoop It Up. I don't know if you remember the Hoop It Up, three
Yeah.
on three out tournament. So me and my cousins are 10-time national champs, 10 years in a row.
Oh, wow.
Game in 10 years. So at the college competitive level. So that was my 15 minutes of fame there, winning all those. But but really, I mean, the best thing that ever happened to me was the Enforcers. Just making the decision to start them, and it was kind of bittersweet because in 2016 February 3rd on my birthday that year I had an Achilles transplant surgery, so my playing days were over. And I was still playing competitively. I was still traveling, playing in big tournaments and pro-ams, and when you tear your ACLs or your Achilles as bad as I did, there's not really coming back from that. So I kind of flipped the script and became the owner and coach of the Enforcers, and now here we are.
It's interesting enough because you're talking about right in my backyard. So I was born and raised in Philly, so I know exactly where you were as far as like when it comes to Schuylkill, because you have the Schuylkill River, which that's one of the reasons why they had named it. Obviously Harrisburg, it's the capital of Pennsylvania. So yeah, I know as far as being back home, there's times where I do miss being back there because obviously the Sixers are playing extremely well, and Doc Rivers is trying to do his thing in Philly. Although a lot of fans want Doc to go, but it comes down to your coaching staff as well. Everybody's got to be on the same sheet of music. And Philly's getting there. It's taking time. It's getting there. When the season first started, they didn't start the way they did last season, but it comes around. It's a long season. People tend to forget. The shortest season, unfortunately, is for the basketball league. So it's when you start 0-4, it's hard to bounce back because then you start, now comes the injury bug. Then you got some guys that might get drafted, again, overseas. It might have been a particular team that had been dying to play for and they end up going. So, and you mentioned earlier, as we talked about as well, when it came to COVID, because last year with the Titans, a couple guys didn't get sick throughout the season. Basil Harfouche, the owner of the Tampa Bay Titans, he started overseas, came back to Tampa to, of course, to play and also be the team market owner at the same exact time. But then he ended up getting himself an injury, so he wasn't able to go the distance of the stretch. And then started out with a different coach. Came DeMarcus Marbury came in, ended up taking the Titans to a long stretching win. Almost didn't make the playoffs, made it in, but they came up short, during the playoff times. But you guys taking that opportunity to be able to coach these guys, whether it's someone that has come in off the bench that may have not gotten a single basket in 3 games because everybody goes through that little mental funk. What I do like about you guys is that you do take the time to talk to that person and calm them down and make them understand, like, listen, you're not going to have a game like this every single game. And they might turn around, but Coach Driskell, this is now game 4. I still can't make a bucket. But you could end up having that game-winning shot, and that might change everything. So, again, it's certain things that you guys present to players. Yeah. And like you said, your players and you guys have that bond because that's what you need. The worst thing you want is a coach or someone, one of your assistant coaches, to basically bring people down, because then the guys are like, why am I playing here? Why do I belong here? I want to be with a team that actually wants to play like a team. So I know it's got to be difficult throughout the season when you have guys who just go through that funk. But I guess to ask the question, is there something between you and your assistant coaches or your staff when you have someone who, and he could be one of your top, key players, and he just goes through that little mental anguish? Is there something that you can particularly say to him that finally gets them to get out of there? Or maybe it's at practice where you have that one-on-one conversation and just figure out what's going wrong.
Yeah, I mean, there is. And at this level, even at high school level and beyond, every player is different. Every players' characteristics are different. Their mentality is different. So that's one thing I try to pride myself on is knowing my guys. There's guys that you can walk up to and they're playing bad, and you could yell at them, scream at them up one side, down the other, and they'll go in the game and play harder, and they'll get it done for you. But there's also those guys where you do that to, and they're going to go sit at the end of the bench and they're going to pout, and they don't want back in the game.
Right.
So you have to know your personnel. I have a really good guard that's played with me for a while, and he gets a little upset, missing a shot. He'll get upset or come down the lane in traffic on a layup and thinks, he might thought he got fouled, but he thinks he still should have made the layup, missed it, and he looks over like, I want to sub, coach, sub me. And there's times where I've yelled at him on the court. They'll be shooting a free throw, the other team will shoot the free throw or something, and I'll call him over and I'll be like, why do you want to sub? Man, I'm playing bad. I can't make a shot. I'm like, did I yell at you for missing that shot? Am I yelling at you for, taking that shot? If I'm not yelling at you, why are you yelling at yourself? That's, and I have a lot of those guys. I have, 4 or 5 of those guys that I have to just get in their ear a little bit and say, hey, if you still got the green light, if I didn't give you the red light, or if I didn't yell at you, why are you upset, man? Keep shooting, keep playing. But there is certain guys where, you have to take them out of the game for a second. You have to let them sit on the bench and regroup. You have to let your assistant coach go over and talk to them and talk them up and let them know that it's a long game. Stuff happens. Michael Jordan wasn't perfect.
Right.
I'm not a perfect person by any means, not a perfect coach, so that's what you have to instill in your players is, hey, it's next play mentality. You missed that play, or you reached and that guy went around you and scored a layup. Okay, you got to get it back now. Next play mentality, that play's over. So it's just, you got to pick and choose your battles on the court, just like any relationship. You pick and choose your
Yeah, that's true. You can what is it? You can always pick your friends, but you can't pick your family. And everybody knows that sometimes you go round and round with the family because, and from the family side, there's a lot of love because most families, they always challenge each other because they hope that the next generation coming up does better than the previous or the current, family. And so in our house, it was no different. We always were competitive. My cousins, they're 10 years younger than I am. But when I was, helping to raise them, I always told them, like, you should be better than that one. You should be better than this one over here. And they used to think like I'm nuts. Like, why would you say that? Because in the end, you guys are going to build such a good chemistry that when one falls, the other one's there to pick them up. So that's why you guys become competitive with one another because it's going to help you in the long run. So you're absolutely right because everybody goes through a funk at one point or another, whether it be in a relationship, personally, something goes on with your life. You just got to figure out how to rebound because there's times, Lord knows, that we just think, man, I can't catch a break, but eventually you do if you work hard enough for it. So again, many good things that you're saying tonight, Coach, that I hope a lot of people that are listening in, it might be the opportunity for them to say, I need to check out the Kentucky Enforcers and see what's going on up there. There might be something different from what goes on in the other league. But speaking of that as well, the venue where you guys play, because I want everyone to know exactly where you guys play, how they're able to get their tickets, and then when they can start, when the schedule's released. I know everybody's waiting for you guys as far as your division, but where can they go to watch your team?
So we will be playing at Dixie Heights High School in Erlanger, Kentucky. We finished up our season, our last 4 games there last season. We moved, after the first 8 games to a bigger, more, it's better location, a lot of restaurants nearby to where everybody can go out afterwards and have fun. Our new website, we're actually getting it developed right now. It should be up and going by next Wednesday, and that's KentuckyEnforcersBasketball.com. You check us out on Facebook, Kentucky Enforcers, Instagram. Once we get our schedule finished, which should be in the next day or 2, that'll be posted on both of those. And then it'll also be on the website next week. So, season tickets will be going on sale as soon as we publish the schedule.
All right. Well, listen, Coach, one final question I have. It's probably the biggest one. And so this one will probably be worth like 1,000 imaginary points. But I've always asked this because I find it interesting with everyone and their opinion. But greatest player of all time, Michael Jordan or LeBron James?
Michael Jordan, no comparison.
No.
And I get a lot of debates from the younger generation, the high school kids and some younger 20-year-olds that I work with. And they always ask me why Michael Jordan, why is Michael Jordan better than LeBron? And, when's the last time and I tell them, watch five full games of LeBron James playing, watch 5 full games of Michael Jordan playing. Tell me any time in those 5 games you see Michael Jordan miss free throws or airball shot, or cry about a foul. It's a different game now. It's a different era, but no comparison.
No, you're right. And I'm the same way too. I'm a huge Michael Jordan fan, and God bless, God rest Kobe Bryant the same way too. I mean, a guy had such great game, but MJ by far, I will always say that's going to be my hero for life when it comes to the basketball, because there's no comparison compared to what we saw growing up, especially for that run Chicago Bulls made. I don't think any team in history, even though, obviously when it comes to, why am I drawing a brain fart here? Golden State Warriors, even though they've made their own championship run, but the run the Bulls had was completely different from what Golden State has. Now, Steve Kerr, obviously coming off that Bulls team, he knew what it would take in order to get to those glory days the way they did. So they bounced back, big time last year. And not to say they can't do it again. And, Steph Curry right now being in the prime of his life. So, yeah, listen, Michael Jordan, always. And if one day I can run into him and I can get a signed jersey, it would hang here in the studio, because, again, it's the best person, I think, still on this earth that's around. But listen, Coach, thank you so much for joining me this evening. I really do appreciate it. And I want you to come back, because I want to get to know at least more of what goes on throughout the season. Therefore, we can, keep catching up with how the season starts, where we are as far as team and players, and then just continue on that throughout the year. So I would appreciate if you come back on with me.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you having me. I'd love to.
No problem. Well, thank you. And then for everyone else, thanks once again for tuning in. You can catch the replay, of course, on BroadStreetSouth.com. Click on the YouTube and the latest episodes, and you guys go back and watch this. You can also be able to hear it on 102.9 The Game. So, Coach, thank you once again. Everyone else, we will talk to you all next week. Enjoy your night. And, pretty soon, the season will commence in 2023. So, everyone, enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.